Hey YouTube, before we start off this video, I would like to quickly promote a product. So there's this super epic mobile app called... No, wait, that's not right. I put Raid Shadow Legends in the script instead of Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. Oh well, we all make mistakes. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon is the 11th game in the series, a remake to the recently localized and removed Famicom game Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. It implements many features and characters from Mystery of the Emblem, plus new characters in the chapters exclusive to this game, but all that's redundant as we find out if it's possible to beat Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon with just Marth. I'm going to lay down some rules before I start. Number 1, we're playing on hard, which means all prologue chapters will be skipped. Number 2, only Marth can attack. The rest of the units will not move and will not have any weapons equipped if they're forced onto the battlefield without my control, otherwise they will be absent. Number 3, recruiting troops is allowed so long as they abide by the previous rules stated. Number 4, all chapters will be played chronologically. Number 5, we're playing on the virtual console release of the game. Number 6, as we're playing on the virtual console, save states are allowed. With all the boring stuff out the way, is it possible to beat Shadow Dragon with just Marth? Well, let's find out. First of all, trying to pick the right enemy level is a chore in itself. Picking Merciless is out of the question. How about Fiendish? What about Savage? Okay, either this thief is now a Chad, or none of these levels are appropriate. Jokes aside, I think the enemy level will be set to hard, as I find it impossible to beat the first level with just Marth on any higher levels. Chapter 1, Marth Embarks. The very iconic map of Fire Emblem, seen in 3 DLC chapters in Fire Emblem Awakening. The only enemies that have ranged weapons are hunters, so there's no fear for any mages as Marth's resistance is very low. However, this chapter is a rocky start, as each of the pirates have a hit around 60% to 70% if Marth isn't in a fort or forest. The best strategy is for Marth to stand one tile below the house, farthest to the right of the 3 houses on turn 2, preferably getting the gold from the surviving villages to the east beforehand, and make a mad dash towards the fort west of the 3 houses. But be sure that Marth can get in the fort before the pirates advance, as they can occupy that space or block Marth's path, and potentially ruin his chances of surviving. Once at the fort, pray to RNGesus that Marth evades enough attacks and levels up to kill off all the pirates pestering him. If he manages to kill all the surrounding pirates, that is the hardest part done, and all that is left is a hunter and the few pirates that didn't advance. At that point, Marth should be okay to take the rest of them out and get to the boss Gazak. The problem with Gazak is that he heals 6 HP per turn, and he deals 20 Marth engaged in combat on the player's turn, and if all of his attacks hit. Fortunately, his hit chance is 50%, so it's best to risk going to attack and hoping that Marth can evade enough attacks or landing critical hits. If Marth's HP is too low, and Gazak isn't going down, it is best that Marth rests in a fort, so he's at full health. There is an armory to the northeast if any of his weapons are wearing thin. Once Gazak is down, Marth is cleared to move on to the next chapter. Chapter 2, The Pirates of Galder. Just a heads up, the pirate Darius will try to walk up to Marth to be recruited, so make sure that the durability of his equipped weapon is always at its max, unless he attacked while he was in the opposing army. Otherwise, that is a run over, as he clearly attacked, thus breaking one of the rules. The best way to circumvent this is to talk to him on your turn, and put down his weapon, or kill him. After that, playing aggressively is advisable, to make sure that Marth takes minimal damage. Prioritizing stronger units in small numbers, and heading towards the nearest fort where Marth is low on HP is the best strategy. Luckily, he has a vulnerary, so if he runs low on HP, he can use it at any time and not have to go into a fort to heal. Around this point, he should level up, allowing him to perform follow-up attacks on most of the opposing army. However, in my attempt, he ran out of vulneraries and was at 1 HP. I thought he would make it out, but he managed to survive against 3 pirates and took them all out with ease. At this point, all there was left was 2 pirates and Gomer. Fortunately, Gomer's hit chance is far lower than Gazak's hit chance, as the hand axe has a lower hit and Marth's speed and luck has increased to allow for greater evasiveness. Once he is gone, seize the castle and that's the chapter done. Chapter 3, A Brush in the Teeth. This is where I realised not being able to use staves is a problem. In this chapter, Lena has Warp, the most broken staff in the entire series. If you're unaware, it allows any unit to be placed literally on any tile of the map, which they can cross and isn't occupied by any other unit, and without it, none of the chapters can be skipped. Anyway, with how powerful Marth is, he is at level 11 at this point in the game. It's as simple as getting to the castle and defeating the boss, and seizing it. I decided not to bother Nabarl or his men, as he does not drop the killing edge and he cannot be reasoned with. Chapter 4, Battle in Nolia. Since this is the first chapter where I'm at a base, I sold all the weapons and items which Marth can't use, and used the gold to forge a weapon which has a might of 10, weight of 1, and a crit of 3, to ensure that it deals more damage than the Iron Sword, and to maximise the chance of performing follow-up attacks. The one main problem is the horsemen, as they can attack from a distance, which means Marth can't counterattack if they initiate combat. Their speed is high enough to negate Marth from performing follow-up attacks, and they can easily catch up with their high movement. Fortunately, they don't deal that much damage due to Marth's high defense. Other than that, it's as simple as taking out all the enemy units and proceeding to the castle to kill the boss. Interestingly enough, Marth managed to land a critical hit, instantly killing the boss. I also decided to participate in the arena. Despite all odds, Marth managed to make it alive, leveling up and getting some gold. After that, Marth killed any remaining troops and seized the castle. Chapter 5, Champions of Aurelis. In this chapter, Marth is capable of wiping out an entire army with any sword. Taking out Wendell and his army is no problem, as he dishes out a significant amount of damage, and he can perform follow-up attacks. I recommend doing this to prevent the same dilemma which Darius causes. After that, after purchasing some steel swords from the armory, and ignoring the units which killed Hardin and his men, is the best strategy, as this is the first chapter that has reinforcements. The reinforcements are a nuisance if they occupy the space which the boss is at, so quickly taking out Merak is the most effective way to finish this chapter. When Merak is no more, seize the castle before the reinforcements can overwhelm Marth. Chapter 6, Fire Emblem. Annoyingly, they don't give you it until the end of the chapter. This means they can only vouch for thieves to open chests and kill them before they leave. Easier said than done. When I did this, they managed to escape with the Killing Edge, a useful item that would have helped Marth's quest. Despite this, it's feasible to get the Armor Slayer and the Seraph Robe. Other than that, mages are a real threat. Marth's resistance is 1. They can do some serious damage and prevent Marth from counterattacking as well. Also, Marth can only rely on vulneraries to heal, as there are no forts or healing tiles. If you run out, Marth will not be able to heal in this chapter, and you might end up with Marth dying, or being stuck at around 1 HP with more units to deal with. This has happened to me when I was about to enter the throne room with Embarks, and the units in there. I had to completely restart the chapter at this point, since I would have had better luck winning the lottery 3 times in a row than for Marth to evade all the attacks. After some thinking and strategizing, I've realised that Marth loses so much HP towards the end, as the archers can snipe him from 1 tile away, and thus he cannot counterattack and finish them off before they can deal more damage. This didn't come into mind at first, as they deal very little damage, but with their strength and numbers, they can dish out at most around 12 HP per turn if all their attacks hit. So, I baited all the units in the main area outside, as the archers can't move as far as the mages, so Marth can pick them off 1 by 1, without taking as much damage. It is to be expected that Marth will take around 12 HP, so I would recommend using the Vulnerary. The major downside is that the chests will have been looted, and the thieves would have escaped. Although, with this strategy, Marth is outside of the throne room with 20 more HP compared to my previous strategy. Now I ease Marth into the throne room, as the mage can quickly deplete Marth's health. When Marth can't advance without crossing the reach of the mage, charge in there, taking out the archer accompanying the mage, so he takes minimal damage as he can't reach the mage. However, after the mage attacks Marth, he is now at 1 HP. The only way he can get through this is for Emrys to engage Marth, and for his attack to miss, so Marth can finish him off. He has 69% when Marth is on the candles, nice, and 79% when Marth is in front of him. After too many game overs, Marth evades Emrys' attack and manages to strike him down with 3 hits with my forged iron sword. With the throne seized and the kingdom saved, Nia gives Marth the Fire Emblem, an item that will allow Marth to freely open chests at the cost of 1 inventory space. Did I forget to mention that it cannot be removed from Marth's inventory? So I should be thankful for the fact that Marth can freely access the convoy anytime during the game. But it is strange that in the DS remake, the Fire Emblem counts as an inventory space, as the original Famicom game didn't have this. Instead, it simply put a silver badge on Marth's stats to indicate he has the Fire Emblem, and allows him to open chests. Chapter 6X, In War's Grip. After freeing the kingdom Aurelis, Marth receives a plea from the western village that he needs to stop the pirates that have invaded the devastated village at Sweet Point and have stolen the children there. Of course, Marth wouldn't allow us to go on any further, and goes to save the day by himself. As I viewed the map, I was relieved that there are forts, as there are no obtainable items in this chapter. I think it's due to the fact that this is a side quest exclusive to DS Remake, which can only be accessed and must be accomplished if the player has 15 or fewer units alive, and since they all died standing still and not fighting, well except Marth. Anyway, I started this chapter confident that Marth will make it through thanks to the forts. One thing I picked up quickly is that these ruffians can barely make a dent, except for the mages, let alone being able to effectively hit him. Even the mages can only deal 9 damage, and their chance of hitting is comparable to a coin flip. If you hadn't already guessed, this chapter's a walk in a park. Kill all the units to maximize Marth's EXP gain, kill the boss, and seize the castle to end the chapter. Chapter 7, Lefcandith Gauntlet. This might be the toughest battle yet. This is up against Princess Minerva and a band of White Wings. They are flyers with excessive speed and avo, plus a good attack to top it off. This might be a difficult chapter to overcome. Oh. It was at this point I realised that Marth is so powerful that in typical Fire Emblem fashion, nothing can stop him. Even if they try, they'll just die at the moment they confront him. If you haven't already guessed, this chapter was also a piece of cake. I killed Minerva thinking that she'd cause trouble for Marth later in the chapter. That might be my undoing, as Marth receives less EXP for doing this, since the White Wings retreat when Minerva falls in combat. To make up for that, I entered the closed gate where the village is closed, and killed all the units there, killed all the reinforcements, killed Harmeen, and seized the castle. Marth is now at level 28. I genuinely didn't even know he could surpass level 20 in this game. That's great since he can still increase his stats, giving me an easier time and a better chance of completing this game. After consulting to Malidus about the plan to kill Medius and taking back Marth's kingdom, he talks about how Anri, Marth's ancestor, wielded the Falchion, the Blade of Light, to seal the Shadow Dragon back into the earth. And it was then I realised that I had a very serious hurdle to overcome. Spoilers coming up. To retrieve the Falchion, I need to strike down Garneth, who was taken off with it. That's definitely easier said than done. He has Emulu, a tome that nullifies all attacks and weapons except Starlight. The problem is, Starlight is a tome as well. Marth can't use tomes and he's the only unit on the team, so the Falchion will be lost, and Marth will have to brave Medius without it. But I think we should cross that bridge when we get there. Chapter 8, Coastal Skirmish. Oh look, a vendor. This is big. Now I can freely stock up on vulneraries, so I don't have to rely on forts anymore. Naturally, I purchased 47 vulneraries. Alas, I am now broke because of this. So I compensated for the investment by selling most of my iron swords and participating in the arena. Marth prevailed against one opponent. He is now at level 29 with around 2,000 gold. His strength is at its max, as it now blinks green. So if I wanted to dish out more damage, he must wield a stronger sword. This problem may become more apparent later in the game. After taking out the main troops to the left forts, he has leveled up to level 30, his maximum level. From here on out, the only way to increase his stats, which aren't blinking green, is to use stat boosting items, so I should keep a sharp eye out for them. After this, it's time to hurry to the boss, as killing any of the other units would be a waste of time and weapon durability. I killed Cannibal and retrieved the Levin sword. This may prove to be a useful weapon. It's the only sword in Shadow Dragon that has a range of 2 as well as 1, so you can counterattack mages and archers. Seize the castle to finish the chapter. Chapter 9, A Wyrm-King's Wrath. Hi, editing Jobby James here. I just wanted to point out that I'm playing the PAL version of Shadow Dragon, and I realised during editing that this chapter isn't called A Wyrm-King's Wrath in other territories. It's called the Pyrathi Dragon. I don't know what's with this change. I was just looking on Fire Emblem Wiki, and for some reason, just for the PAL version, it's called a Wyrm-King's Wrath. I just wanted to point that out there just in case you found it a bit jarring or a bit confused why the name's so different. Anyway, sorry to interrupt the video. After fleeing to Pyrathi, Marth discovers the rumours of Manu, their king, being a Manakita true. Fortunately, there's a Worm Slayer. Unfortunately, one of the thieves have managed to steal the Worm Slayer before I had a chance to get in there. Hopefully Marth is so powerful that Manu is not much of a problem that I fear he may be. I also found a major annoyance. The Levin sword hasn't proven useful, as Marth's mag is 0. The only way to make it useful is to increase the magic as much as I possibly can, as it never increased each time Marth leveled up, not even once. Before I dealt with the remaining units and Manu, I managed to get past some of them and nabbed the goddess icon and bullion from the 2 remaining central chests. Dealing with the remaining units was no problem, and dealing with Manu was surprisingly easy. Keep in mind he deals 12 damage and his hit is 56%, so Marth can be killed if he's somewhat low on HP. Other than that, he's no problem. After dethroning Manu, I used the goddess icon while I remembered, so Marth has 30 luck, which is his max, and seized the castle. Chapter 10, Princess Minerva. After Catria's plea, Marth travels to Castle Dale to destroy Grust's foothold and save Maria, the young Madonian princess. Or not, as there are not many outstanding advantages of recruiting her, she doesn't give Marth any useful items. First off, I killed the thief that stole 11 swords, so now I have 2 11 swords, and looted the remaining chest to get a staff which can flog off when necessary. Go out of the castle as soon as possible to limit the number of troops and to advance to the shops to buy some pure waters and more vulneraries. After some shopping, I hurried to the castle and knocked off Zarhoff to seize the castle and to receive the speed wing, so Marth can increase his speed stat. This increases the chance of performing follow-up attacks and allows for better evasiveness. Chapter 11, Knorda Market. Pornia. The land reminds her of the horrific sights of her beloved family members being brutally killed and hung before the gates. So, it's up to Marth to help her reclaim her kingdom and rebuild from what was taken. Before advancing the castle, I decided to use the speed wing and paid a quick visit to the Colosseum. I died once trying to beat 2 consecutive fights, so I tried again. This time Marth survived against 3 opponents as he managed to strike 2 critical hits. While advancing, the Ballistians opened fire and barely deal any damage to Marth, which is a very good thing as they can be a real problem to deal with in the remake. And the boss. Kozin is about as weak as Manu, and is easily killed when he tries to advance. I killed the Grust guarding the castle, and Jake to see his reaction as he dies without ever saying his feelings to Anna. So long, Anna. I miss you the most. Seized the castle to help with Nia fighting for a kingdom. Chapter 12, the Ageless Palace. It's time to venture into the historic palace of Achenia, and oh no, they captured the Infomaniac! Hey, no. There's nothing you can do other than to watch him and the rest die. Except Thomas, who's too far away for the mages and archers. Anyway, first things first, kill the thief who's holding the armor slayer and open the door into the treasure room. I ran into a pickle as the mages deal so much damage and Marth can't fight back due to how little damage the 11 sword deals. So I use vulneraries when his HP dips below or around a half. I killed all the units that entered the treasure room and looted all the chests while trying to avoid the sniper, as he can deal 10 damage and can heal to mostly full health thanks to the curate. Therefore, I purchased a lot of vulneraries as I knew that I'd use them in circumstances like this. After looting all the chests, I went to get the boots from the chests at the southwest, so Marth's movement is now 9, which is more than a Pegasus Knight. I also stocked up on silver swords, killing edges, and armor slayers before proceeding to Volzin. He deals a fair amount of damage as he wields Volganon. They can be easily taken down in one strike. After seizing, Nia gives Marth the Parthia, a weapon that is useless as it's a bow. She also says that Mercurius, the sword of Regalia, is stolen, so Marth isn't able to use it just yet. Before I continue, I won't be doing a traitor's worth. Despite that Marth is the only unit on the team, I have enough units to not participate in these side quests. Shadow Dragon is weird in the fact that if you have less than the desired number of units, Malidus informs that 1 or more units will be fighting alongside Marth, and a bunch of generic units will join. There is no way of declining, so even though a bunch of units die, they've all been replaced, and the replacements won't die as they can't be deployed. Halfway through the game we conclude part 1 of beating Shadow Dragon with only Marth. In part 2 we will attempt the rest of the chapters starting from chapter 13 and hopefully defeat Medius to claim back Marth's kingdom and to bring an end to the War of Shadows. I've had fun playing Shadow Dragon like this and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on playing Shadow Dragon and other Fire Emblem games with only Marth. And above all, thank you for watching!